Joining us now, she's the head coach up at Abilene Christian, of course, former all-conference performer at Marshall. So she's used to changes. I speak of head coach Abigail Farler joins us back on In the Circle. Coach, how you doing?
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Lots of change since we last spoke. Let's talk about obviously where your program's at right now as you get set for the fall. Your students are coming back to the campus. You're now getting part of a new conference. You're going to be joining. You're in the WAC, leaving from the Southland to the WAC. Just talk about that transition. What is that like from the university standpoint and for your program?
I'm really excited to get to be part of this transition for ACU. I think it's a good move for our university and athletic department. We're excited to face some new competition in the WAC eventually this season. Primarily, we're going to be facing some of the same teams that we had in the Southland that moved over with us, but it's going to be a really fun year with great competition, and I think all of the programs are elevating right now.
How does that adjust anything of your program? Is that something? Is there any adjustments to that, or is it just one of those things? Hey, we're doing the same thing. We're just playing different teams.
Yeah, for me, it's initially the thought was, I'd done a lot of recruiting on the West Coast, and so that's great. That's a good look for a lot of those recruits that we pull from the West Coast or from Hawaii that eventually will be playing more games back that direction. So I think it's a positive there. But other than that, we had already done most of our recruiting before this switchover had happened. And so not too much had changed for us other than kind of thinking about what our schedule will look like this year with playing the same team 6 times because of the division.
Yeah, just got to explain
a little bit
that
of a different strategy.
A little bit. Yeah, explain that a little bit about how the conference schedule will look like in the adjustment period with the new members. You're not the only member from the Southland coming, but just kind of describe what is it going to look like here for the Western Athletic Conference here in 2022.
Well, so there's 2 divisions that are set up, and we're with a division that is schools that are in Texas. And so for us, the travel is actually going to look a little bit nicer this year. We're going to play a 3-game series away, a 3-game series at home with all of those schools that are here in Texas with softball. And so we're excited for that. I think it's going to present its own challenges facing the same team so many times in conference this year, but that's kind of just how it had to work with us moving into the conference, all of these schools so quickly that some compromises had to be made. So.
Is this a 1-year thing with the divisions, or is this could be something that could be like similar moving forward? What's the kind of the outlook for the league from that standpoint? Is this a year-by-year thing, or are they kind of have a bigger plan down the road as far as how the divisions might line up in the schedule?
I don't know what's set in stone. I think that the hope is that there's going to be crossover moving forward, and that my understanding is that that's going to be a gradual thing to start implementing more crossover and give the universities a chance to acclimate and prepare a little bit better for that. So that's my understanding, but I don't know. I'm not too involved with the conference yet or the planning committees or anything like that.
No, that makes sense. When you played at Marshall, you kind of switched conferences, as I remember, because when you played at Marshall, you switched over to Conference USA. Marshall used to be in the MAC. They switched to Conference USA in the fall of 2005, I believe it was. So you spent your last majority of your career in Conference USA, but as a player, you kind of transitioned to this. So I wonder if, having gone through that as a student athlete, does that help you kind of prepare here, not only as a coach, but to help prepare your players?
Yeah, I don't think the players honestly think too much about it. I think that they just want to play softball. They're excited to get to face different opponents. But I did talk to my team when the announcement was live that we were going into the WAC, like, hey, this is really a cool opportunity. As a student athlete, I was able to compete in one conference for 2 years and another conference for 2 years. And so holistically, from my experience, getting to travel to all of these different places and see how different conferences did things differently in the experience. I think it will be similar. The girls don't really realize that yet, but getting to see growth and new opportunities and changes and get to be a part of, down the road in history, we'll look back and see, oh, that was the first season in the WAC, and that they don't even really register that they get to be part of that right now.
Were you even aware when you were a player about the history that was being made as you were switching conferences at Marshall? And you mentioned the experiences you got to visit different cities, but were you even? I mean, were you even aware of it? Like, I mean, what was that like going through that as an athlete, a student athlete back then?
I don't think it registered to me at all. I just wanted to go out and compete. But what I did recognize, because the landscape of the MAC was so different than CUSA, all I recognized was, whoa, I get to see so many different states in the United States all through just playing conference softball, which was wild to me. And looking back, it still is just all these touches all over the country that we got to go travel and see these places and experience, even for a short, just for a weekend, go see all these places. So that was cool.
In other words, you enjoyed that trip to Florida the first time. Marshall came down to play a UCF, right? That wasn't too shabby.
Yeah, yeah, it was, gosh, I mean, I remember it was like, oh, well, last year we were up in Buffalo in New York and it was sleeting, and now we get to go to Florida, and thinking about, well, we're in Michigan last year, and this year we get to go to El Paso. Just a total flip of where we were traveling to, but big trips there.
Probably a different clothing to travel with as well at some of those places. Going to Houston versus Buffalo, a little different there. But you mentioned you've recruited out on the West Coast, you've coached on the West Coast. That's got to at least make you feel comfortable from that standpoint. Going to the WAC, being familiar with that region, some of the regions like a Seattle, the program that won the tournament last year. New Mexico State's got a great program out in the WAC. I mean, the league with this move gets stronger in the WAC, but yet you're familiar with that region. I would imagine it's an easier adjustment for you.
Yeah, we're just so excited. I think that there's some things that I'm more familiar with, and then other things that I'm just going to be learning right along with everybody else. But it does help kind of knowing different areas of the country, I guess, and having naturally just traveled to California so much more. But there's so much change within the conference and different coaches, and so I think a lot of the programs, that are in the other division, they're all growing really quickly right now too, and everybody's elevating. Just seeing the recruits that all of these programs are bringing in, it's very exciting for all.
Well, there's constant changes in college athletics. Obviously, the news recently, Texas and Oklahoma will go into the SEC here in a few years. I feel like you all should just brag and say, you all started this trend. What, I don't know what the big hoopla is about, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We just started a domino effect. No, there's just constantly so much change, and I think that's the consistent thing, is that there's always going to be change, and who can adjust to change the fastest and find solutions and just keep moving forward most efficiently, those are the successful ones.
Let's talk about your program here. You're about to enter your third season, I believe, which is kind of time flies.
Yeah.
It's been unique. Obviously, we've been dealing with a pandemic during this. There's no handbook to how to handle something like this.
Yeah.
So what has it been like for you specifically? Because you're coming in you're taking over a program, you're trying to build it back up and try to build it into a winner. And now you have a pandemic here in the middle of it, all of this. How has that been like, and how have you been able to navigate that?
Yeah, it's definitely had plenty of challenges. I think the toughest thing is that we just haven't felt like we've gotten into a great rhythm yet. But it's given us an opportunity to really evaluate things that are important to us and how we operate. And, are we the program that we say we are when we're talking about being a solution-oriented program, a high-energy program? Do outside circumstances change that for us, and things that we can't control? Do we move forward with that? And so I think that in the long run, this is going to make us a stronger program, and we're really excited for this year. I think we've got a group that really believes in what we're doing right now. We've got 12 newcomers coming in right now. So kids that really believe in the vision of the program. They're very excited about how we want to play softball here, and the returners know exactly what the expectation is, and they are jazzed. They're ready to go. They know the newcomers that are coming in, and they're excited for their new teammates.
It has been unique because your first year, you didn't get a full season in because the season came to an abrupt end, obviously, as we know, in March of 2020. And then last season, I can't imagine you had a normal fall at all. Nobody had a fall, really. Just describe those kind of deals, the ups and downs, if you will, the adjustments. I mean, it's obviously we all understand why it's going on, but at the same time, you're trying to establish a program here, and now at least hopefully, fingers crossed, this fall you'll have a decent normal fall and get closer to season. Maybe get that kind of chemistry you've been looking for from a team standpoint, which is always important.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year was, I really felt like we had a more normal fall than a lot of programs. And we recognized that, and we felt grateful that we were able to continue practicing. We were able to still lift. The girls were still in class. And so we were grateful for all of those things. But looking back at the end of the year, what we didn't have was any outside competition. And we had spent so much time inter squad scrimmaging. And we realized that really, really hurt in the long run, which it hurt all of the programs that couldn't play outside competition. But so flipping that this year, we are going really heavy with a lot of scrimmages this fall, and they're all going to be at home. I want to give the girls an opportunity to, like you're saying, work on their chemistry, work on playing together at home on their field in front of our fans, and practice our style of ball against some outside competition where we're driving home that we want to be really competitive and really high energy, but we can do it all together against a different opponent, because man, that was very taxing to try and teach the girls to have great chemistry, love each other, be awesome teammates, but constantly they're competing against each other, and never an outside team last fall. That was rough. So we're very grateful, and I think that changes our dynamic and just going forward with our practices, how we really want them, and not being so timid. We had a lot of injuries last year, and so we backed off a lot on things that we would want to do in practice, because we wanted to be careful and cautious and preserve players, not have any more injuries. And so, yeah, it was a different year last year. Kind of made us refocus on what's important to us this fall.
What have you learned about yourself over the last couple of years that maybe you didn't know about yourself, or something you learned that you adapt now as a coach that you would not have thought about 2 years ago, but having gone through the last couple of years, you now kind of adapted to your coaching style?
Oh, that's a great question. I've spent a lot of time over the summer just really reevaluating leadership and my leadership capabilities and areas where I want to grow. And so one of those is just being a better listener with the players, and being more aware, and then growing good leaders in my program and really investing time into the leadership that's within the team. And so it can be a more fluid process here. But I think this last year just gave me an opportunity to really humble myself and evaluate what was working and what things needed to be adjusted, so that I give different things in practice time to play out and see how they work, but then be willing to adapt and say that I don't like that, we're going to change that and move forward. That's probably the biggest thing over the last couple of years that I've learned.
We on the field, you're not shy of playing people. You since you've been there, you played a tough non-conference schedule. That was definitely not no different past season, where you played, among others, Oklahoma in El Paso to start off, who eventually would win the national title. A Texas State team that made the NCAA tournament. You played them in Arlington. You played Arkansas. You played. I don't know how much of that was playing, how much of that was adjusting to what you could do from a scheduling standpoint. But nonetheless, you put your team to the test. Just talk about your philosophy from a scheduling standpoint, because you're not shy you're not ducking people.
No. Yeah, part of it was we needed to just take games. The way that last year worked, with the weather and everything that came through, I had told the girls, be prepared for anything, because if we have an opportunity to play, we didn't get a fall. My priority is to get us out on the field and play. So if we have an opportunity, we're going to go for it. But ultimately, I think this is an experience that the girls only get 4 years to do this, and I want them to go and play against the best and figure out how to beat the best. So we're going to give them a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different looks. I'm really confident with the kids that we've recruited in here. And so just, I want to give them as many opportunities to go out and compete and have an awesome experience as possible.
Well, and I think that's important, because, your mentor, for example, Shauna Stanton, this past year, they can only play conference only over there in the Big Ten. How important was it to give the student athletes that experience? And Really, this is something that could pay off for you this year and moving forward. You're playing Oklahoma. You've been on the field with them, the likes of that, and
Yeah.
Arkansas. I gotta believe that's nothing but a positive for for your players, especially the ones that are obviously coming back.
Yeah. The kids that are returning, that experience for them to go to UTEP, we were supposed to be hosting that opening weekend. And so everybody was really excited. We're going to host opening weekend. We've got these schools coming to us. And then because of that storm that was coming through, everybody had to adjust. And I'm really grateful for my administration hearing me out and supporting, like, hey, we've got to make a move fast. We're going to go to UTEP. We're going to take whatever games we can get here. And then OU jumps on. And we were really pleased with what we saw from our kids that first weekend. So those returners, they remember that experience, and they remember feeling like they were going toe to toe, and we were playing our style of ball. We were playing very aggressively, very confident, high energy. That was really cool under not great circumstances. They were supposed to be at home. They had mentally prepared to open at home and to have a totally different opening weekend experience. And then really quickly at practice, I told them, hey, get ready to pack, because we're going to be moving this. We're going to take games. So they shifted quickly, pivoted, and put up some good performances opening weekend against good competition. So I think that gives them a lot of confidence moving forward that, yes, we are a flexible team, and we'll take whatever's coming at us, adjust, and give our best effort.
I felt like your team was starting to click at the end of the year, and I felt like you kind of ran out of time. And, I've talked to a lot of coaches about last season, and especially out, on the West Coast, but in a lot of places where, because of the uniqueness of last year, some schools were behind schedule and things like that. So they didn't feel like their team was clicking until the end. Did you feel that way about your team? Because your team, I think, won 6 of their last 7 before the conference tournament. I thought your team was starting to kind of figure things out at the end of the year, and then the year just ended.
Yeah. It was that created so much momentum for us. I think for the girls to see that what they were capable of, and that, oh my gosh, it really does work when we're confident and when we trust each other and when we play as a unit. It's good things happen, and the girls, they fought back so well. They faced adversity and kind of got down in some games, but they flipped in their minds, and they knew their backs were against the wall, and if they wanted to go to the conference tournament, they knew what they had to do. And so we had great leadership from the seniors helping move us forward, but those returners are the kids that are sophomores now. That experience for those kids is huge for us for the next 3 years, to be able to be a part of some adversity and figure out how to win, and win a lot of ball games under pressure. So it took a while to get it to click and to have them build back confidence and see what they were capable of. But now that they see it, I hope they don't forget that.
I was going to ask you that. Is that something you can carry over now to the next season, or is that something that you almost not necessarily start over, but the momentum is only as good as this new group now, because you have some new faces, you have a mixture there. How do you carry? Can you carry some of that momentum? Can that pay off here this season?
Yeah, I do think that that's going to carry over with momentum with the returners that we have, because the expectation level for them is higher, and those kids having confidence and knowing, hey, we're okay. We might be down in this game, but we are capable. Anything can happen in a game. Continue to trust the process. A lot of those kids are leaders for us that are returning, and so that's huge. But then we've got 12 new kids that they're coming from winning. Their expectation is to win. They've been winning at their previous programs or in their high school career. They've had a lot of success. And so I think that's really healthy, because now you've got these returners that experience that at the end of the season. They experience the not fun part of a season when it wasn't working, when they weren't trusting the process. And then they saw what happens when you do it right. And then you marry that with some really competitive kids coming in who are expecting that they're going to work hard and they want to win. So we're very, very excited. You can't tell. We want to get to practice, and
I know
these kids start working together.
I would imagine that. Yeah. Do you have leaders right now as you're getting set to begin here in the fall, or is that something that still has to be established once fall starts?
I think we do naturally have some leaders. Over the summer, we allowed the girls to choose different areas where they wanted to be mentored by our coaches. And I mean, they were in totally different areas. Maybe they wanted to be mentored in their mental toughness or their spiritual identity or their growth mindset. And we had some that chose and said, hey, I want to be pushed and I want to be mentored as a leader. And those kids, man, they put in some work over the summer. I don't think that they're going to need a title. All of those kids, the players are just going to understand that they've got some leadership qualities and that they've matured as leaders in our program, and that they understand what the vision is and that I trust them with it. So I think it's going to be a much more fluid year going forward for us, with different areas having kids having different skill sets that they've developed over the summer that they're excited to bring to the table.
Who are some of the names of players people should keep an eye on when they, as the season gets going in February, and they see your team? I know you're going to learn some players. You want to see what they learn in the fall, but who are some of the names you're curious to learn about as well in the fall and see their growth, either newcomers or even the ones coming back?
Oh my gosh, Eric, this is crazy because I was talking to I had the freshmen move in yesterday with their parents. And as we were talking, I was saying, this is the most unique year that I think any of these coaches we've ever experienced. I had players sitting in a parent-student meeting. That was the very first time I'd ever seen them in person. That's mind blowing. I've been you into practice and I've never met you in person because we've had to do all of this virtual recruiting with COVID and not being able to do visits. And so the expectation, I mean, it's wild. We're so excited about every one of our players, but truly we don't know. We don't know what our year is going to look like. I've had a lot of people say, well, if you could predict your field, I have no idea. I know past success of players. We're very excited about all of our kids, but Callie Burris coming back for us with her COVID year. That's huge. Having that kid and her leadership and her bat and her competitiveness, she will be our super senior out there. That's very, very helpful for our program. Bringing Sydney in to pitch is going to be very helpful for our whole pitching staff. We've got another pitcher from Santa Clara, Loren, that is her work ethic is just going to help drive our team. We've got All-American outfielders transferred in, and pitcher, from here in Texas. We just have so many awesome fresh faces, tons of accolades. So we're excited to see them here at this level competing with each other, because like I talked to the freshmen, their past success is awesome and that's what got them here, but now it's a new chapter and now it's time to see what you're doing at the college level with ACU.
You make a great point, and you're not the only coach that's going to have to deal with this in this fall. But you're right. I mean, up until this summer, a lot of you have been recruiting virtually. So in some cases, or if not most cases, these new classes that everybody's bringing in, they're going to see in person for the first time. I don't know, what, a year? I don't know how long that, describe that. Like, what is that like? That is so unique. You're used to knowing that person that's coming in very well from seeing them in person. Obviously, technology like Zoom helps, but still there's something to be said for that in-person interaction, right?
Yeah, especially when you're a really relational coach. It's wild. Like, we were helping move our freshmen in, and we had another a transfer player from Salt Lake Community College, and she said, hey, I'm going to come help move the freshmen in. And the coaches are like, hey, we recognize her when she walks up because we've never met her in person. And luckily we did, and it was awesome. We had a great experience, and it was just it was really special, actually. That to be our first interaction was some servant leadership from an upperclassman helping move in freshmen that she had no tie to yet, helping coaches that she didn't even know. But yeah, it's wild when you're trying to build relationships and you've done it all through text or phone calls or Zooms. But I think that's it's gonna test our leadership ability, and I'm prepared for some stretching and grinding this fall. I think we're gonna have different communication styles with kids. For our program in particular, we're from Georgia to Hawaii to Oregon to Nevada, Utah, Wisconsin. I mean, we've got such a variety of people coming into this program that we don't know really well. We've done our best to get to know them, but now we're going to learn, and it's kind of like blending a family really fast. And so there's going to be some aches and pains, but we're committed to growing through it and to figuring it out together. So I don't know if I really answered your question there, but there's so many different dynamics rolling around here.
No, that's so fascinating. And I'm curious how much of the fall, obviously, you're going to be spent on the field and getting better on the field, but how much of it is also getting to know each other off the field? I mean, that's usually a normal process, but here I would imagine it's amplified, because of the circumstances.
Yes. Well, for our program in particular, we spend a lot of time with team bonding, culture, developing our culture, and chemistry building. We put a large percentage of our time into that naturally in the fall. Last year, we couldn't do a lot of that because of COVID, and so that hurt us. So this year, for the returners, it's going to feel like, whoa, we are spending so much time together. We're going to the volleyball games together. We're going to the football games. We're doing all of these different activities just to give the girls different opportunities away from softball to really get to know each other, ask questions, and figure out how your teammates tick and what they're like, because in the end, I think that bond and that closeness and loving each other really well, that's going to help put us over the edge. Obviously, we want them to be really good at softball, but we want them to be awesome teammates. And so if I'm saying that as a coach, then I have to give them opportunities to grow and give them the time to invest into that.
Having gone through what you've gone through the last couple of years, do you feel that your players that you've had, and then obviously the players you have, not only beyond after softball, they're going to be prepared for just about anything, right? After the last couple of years. And I mean, I would imagine a lot of this is a learning curve for the world outside of softball.
Oh yeah, this is huge. And we talk about that before pre-COVID. We've always talked about, it's not necessarily about the backhand. It's about how you approached it mentally and how you took on a challenge and how you kept working at something, so we'll talk about that. And this is what that's going to look like in the medical field, or, when you have a concern, this is what it's going to look like when you talk to your supervisor. And so we've always translated those things for the girls into, this is the real life version of what you're going through right now. Yes, this is how we want you to backhand it, but this is how we want you to approach that mentally, or, whatever. But with COVID, there was so much more that we really wanted to talk to the girls about, because people have different views and different opinions. And so learning how to listen, communicate well, be a team player, and find common ground, so that they were prepared when they go out into life, that they feel like they've had an opportunity to work on different skills that the average person didn't get an opportunity while they were in college, or through other experiences. We want to use softball to give them a leg up in life after college.
Couple last questions. I'm curious, the conference change, how does that affect recruiting? Does that open some other extra doors? You'd like to recruit nationally, so it may not affect you as much, but I've had coaches tell me, one coach in particular that's going over to the ASUN, that it does help them in that it opens some doors, because they're probably now in some markets where, hey, they could tell the recruit, hey, you could come to a home visit. It's like a visiting home, because a lot of times players like, hey, do I get a chance to play in front of my family if, I'm going away from my home? It's things like that. How much of that is a factor now in recruiting? Does that get brought up a lot as far as the conference change is concerned?
Yeah, they just have a lot of questions, but honestly, I was already recruiting in that direction anyhow. Hawaii's been an area that I've really liked to recruit from. And so we're actually using this opportunity, because we're not doing the crossover this year with the WAC. We're going to go play out in Hawaii. And so that's really exciting that we've got our kids that are from Hawaii. They're going to get to go home and play there in front of their home crowd. And so this is our one year right now where we saw a good opportunity and a window to go do that. But honestly, I don't think it'll change my recruiting too much, because our recruiting is so unique to begin with. We're already in a hotbed here in Texas where there's really, really good softball players, and they're just everywhere. But we're looking for such a specific type of kid that wants the environment that we have at ACU and wants to be part of a program the way that we're running it. We're always going to be looking nationally. I think it's just a little bit more appealing for that kid in California to say, oh, I might be able to come home and play in California a couple times maybe during my college career. But there's just not a ton of clarity. There's nothing set in stone where I could promise, hey, you're going to be playing here your junior year or anything at that point. So yeah, I don't think to answer your question, I don't think it's changing it too much, other than that it's an awesome conference and that kids recognize the WAC brand, and they're excited to be able to help us win a WAC championship.
Right, more exposure, games, your program will get seen more and things like that with a variety of ways as well. So I think that's so exciting, and it really speaks to the growth. How big is that? That's my last question. You mentioned you recruit in Hawaii, you're recruiting. Would that even have been possible like 15 years ago when you were a player? Compare recruiting now to when you were being recruited as a player? I would imagine it's changed now, because maybe back then it was more regionalized, but now because of social media, because of all the technology, everybody knows your program. So you can recruit nationally now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can. That's funny that you should ask, because back when I was being recruited, we were sending out VHS tapes in the mail. So yeah, it has changed a little bit because that doesn't even exist. But you're also asking the kid that went from Oregon to West Virginia to play in college. And so I think it ends up how it's supposed to end up, and you find the right fit. But I think using social media right now is that's crazy how much it just opens up doors. Some of the 22s, we never would have had access or known these kids without Twitter. And then we find them and connect, and we find out they're really good fits for us. But we have something very different and special and unique at ACU. And so I think it's always going to be a national draw, that not everybody is looking for this experience, but that one kid that is, when they find you and we find out they can play softball and they're really good, it's going to be an awesome fit. And we're going to get them down here to Abilene, because this is exactly what they want. Is they want to come live in Abilene and compete, be a Wildcat. So recruiting is crazy now, though. It's social media and videos. It's wild.
You've made me feel old. I still have a VHS. I don't use it anymore. Obviously, nobody does, because you're right. VHSs don't exist anymore. But I do have a VCR. So you still have a VCR. Listen, so I'm not going to get into all that, but yeah, because I have I used to record like a lot of sporting events. That was like my weird like little connection. And so I'm still in the process of flipping them over to CDs, but that's a whole other story. Yeah, but I could relate. I brought back. Come on, you and I are from the same time frame there. It's funny how things have kind of changed quickly there, very fast.
It's kind of fun to talk to my players about it and life before social media. Like, did you know not everybody even had a computer when they were in school? Not everybody. It's just wild how fast.
How did we all function back then? All right. How did we all function?
Didn't even have cell phones.
I don't know how we would have functioned. We did. We somehow figured out a way to function there. But technology. I mean, part of you wishes you had some of this when you were a player, right? Because there's so many. Now you don't even have to go in person. But a lot of these players that they're getting lessons could do it virtually. That's one of the other big revelations during this whole COVID thing, is a lot of people have been doing virtual lessons. And like you mentioned, now people can virtually recruit and things like that. It's kind of wild. People can watch tape of their swing or how they're pitching on their phone or on their laptop, which you didn't have that access when you were a player.
No, yeah, I mean, that's crazy. I think it's a blessing and a curse, though. It affords so many opportunities for us to do things. But then I think sometimes it handicaps us when we rely on video or text or all of that to connect with people, and we lose some of the in-person physical connection with people, where that's really valuable and it's important. And so I hope we find a balance with it where we can marry the two and use the benefits of having social media, having video, having text and all of that, but not rely solely on that, because human to human interaction, man, it's good. It's
Amen.
Good stuff. It's so cool to meet all of these freshmen. It just fills your cup to interact with them and see people smile. And, I don't know. I could probably get on a soapbox on that one.
I love it. No, I'm 100% agreement with you. I'm definitely, I like to hear that. Trust me, I'm with you on that. We could spend hours talking about that. Last question. Obviously, the bond, the chemistry, getting to know each other are some of the big keys this fall. I'm
Yeah.
curious from an on the field standpoint, what's the biggest question you have that you're looking forward to getting that answer between now and February?
Oh man. Well, I mean, we're sitting in here and we're trying to map out practices, and we've got a lot of question marks on some of our players on defense. Like, I think we're gonna see our shortstop, but I think we also need to give her a look at third base. We're not totally sure. We have a lot of kids, and that's the nature of how we're gonna recruit. Naturally, we're gonna recruit a more utility style player that's capable of playing in a couple different positions, but we want to see them out and how they compete at this level at the pace that we play at. You know, a lot of them have really great offensive numbers, but they haven't hit here yet. They haven't hit in college yet. And so having 4 quality pitchers on our pitching staff to then at least let our girls start seeing some college level pitching, that's, you know, that's going to be awesome to see how they compete at a different level now. So it's all exciting. We set it up a little bit different this year, where we're going to go 3 weeks of individual small group and really go over the foundation and the basics with the program and expectations. But now we need to, now we need to just get them out there and get them as a team after 3 weeks and see how they compete together.
Well, we're excited for that. That's we're looking forward to that, seeing your team on the field there. Head coach Abigail Farler joining us here on In the Circle. For more information, check out acusports.com. Coach, thanks so much. I know there's a lot on your plate, but it was really fascinating to hear your perspective with everything going on around your program, with the conference change, and obviously what you've with dealing with a pandemic and everything. Thanks for your perspective and your thoughts there. We wish you well. We always glad to have you on the show. We'll definitely do this again down the road.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. Go Wildcats.